Hi and welcome to this tutorial on how to draw a plant with gouache using Procreate. This is a beginner-friendly tutorial, so I will be showing you step by step how we can create this gouache painting using Procreate. What we're going to do is build from scratch, and we start by sketching. Then we're going to lay in the flat colors. We're playing some more with clipping masks, so I will teach you how they work. Adding shadows, highlights, we'll be using different blend modes, so I hope you will be learning a lot from this one. Hi, I'm Brenda Bakker. I'm an artist and teacher from the Netherlands. I'm a member of the Pigeon Letters design team, and I also teach Procreate on Skillshare. I've got a couple of lovely classes on fun digital paintings on Procreate, and my goal is to let it look like my digital paintings are made on real paper. And besides my Skillshare classes, I also have my own YouTube channel on which you can see a couple of different video tutorials I made as well as time lapses. So perhaps you can check that out too. You can also check out my Instagram page on which you can see a lot of my daily paintings. I will be using the brushes provided by the Pigeon Letters, and I will be using the gouache set. The gouache set is originally existing from 3 brushes: the gouache 1, the gouache 2 and the gouache 3. But I prefer them much more tapered. Like for instance, if you've got a real brush and you push, you get a thicker stroke, and when you lift it, you get a smaller stroke. So push and lift. That's also what these tapered brushes are going to do for you. So I made some small changes, and I will show you how you can make these small changes to a brush. So I will be doing that for every brush we are going to use. You also need a sketching pencil, and I'll be using the 6B from Procreate itself. Also, the TPL has a lovely grid set brushes, and I will be using the spray noise, but of course you can use any brush you like for getting some texture into your painting. And also I will be using from the brush lettering set the Spyro brush provided by the Pigeon Letters. So these are the brushes I will be using, but feel free to use any brush to your own liking. For this class I'll be providing a special prepared canvas which has a paper texture on top. So I've grouped these together, and you're always going to draw underneath it. So every extra new layer you can create underneath the paper texture. I've also provided for you swatches for the gouache plants, and these are the colors I will be using, and you can get this also from your class. So you can follow along, but also feel free to choose anything of your liking, and make sure you grab all the materials needed for this class. So once you've got your canvas imported, it will show up in the left upper corner of your gallery. When you open your canvas, you can see 2 layers on top. These are your paper textures. So there's one setting to multiply and one setting to color burn. These are my favorite settings for paper texture. So I group these together so I can't be drawing on them. I create a new layer, and you're always going to draw below the paper texture layer. So the first thing we're going to do is sketch our drawing. For that you go to your 6B pencil. I make a kind of plant spots by making a small rectangle. I'm creating some slider rectangle on top, and I think this one is a little bit too big, so I can make him a little bit smaller. Put it approximately in the lower half of your painting. And there I'm going to create some branches, and just doing them randomly. And you can play a little bit more with those. You don't have to follow them precisely. I'm more of a random kind of painter sketcher, so this is what I do. Very easily. It doesn't have to be precise, especially for me. I don't like precise working, so this is just a sketch, a random sketch. So I want this a little bit tapered down, so it won't be a square plant pot. So erase the outer lines of this one. Let me check. Go to the brush, the eraser. So this will be approximately your sketch you're going to use for your drawing. So I put those on multiply and reduce the opacity of it, so it will be visible but not too much in your face. I'm going to create a new layer and I'm going to do the layer below that. When you've got the gouache brush set by the pigeon letters, you will see a gouache 1, a gouache 2 and a gouache 3. I like them tapered. So I have more feeling to the brush with pressure sensitivity. It's an easy setting and I will show you how. So you're going to take the gouache 1 brush. You're going to duplicate, always duplicate the original, and you only have to make adjustments to a couple of things. You go to your taper and here you go and make these a little bit like pointy edges. Then you go to your properties, you go to your Apple Pencil and there you're going to bump up to the max, the pressure. And now you have a brush that's tapered and I like it like that. So what is the difference between these? Well, I will show you. I'm on a new layer. Yes, I'm on a new layer. When I've got a non-tapered brush, it has a little bit pressure. When I touch its slider, it will be having a lighter color, but it's not small. When I use it with a tapered one, when I do slider touch, I have a smaller one, and when I do some more pressure, it will be thicker. And when I do that to all the brushes, I'm going to delete it because I already have it. When you do that to all the brushes, you will see that this one will be more opaque. So I have a small, and when I push and get them wider. And that's what we're going to need to make some lovely leaves. So that's why I like these settings. And of course, always keep the original at hand. So when you've done that to all the brushes, so first duplicate them, then adjust the settings, and you can name them in this area. In about this brush, you can change the name so you can see which brush is which. So that's what I like and explained to you about the brushes. So now you've got that set, let's get started for drawing. First, I'm going to start with the pot. I'm going to take the gouache 3 and I'm going to choose this burgundy, is it burgundy color? I think it's purplish burgundy. I like that color very much. So first we're going to color in this square and we're going to do this one on a different layer on top because then we can play a little bit with shadow underneath it. So on the first layer I'm going to take the gouache 3, and this is a wet look kind of brush, and then you can see some little streak marks in it, and that's what I like. So just color it in. It doesn't have to be precise, and I like it when you have some little stroke marks and gaps in it. So please do not color it in all the way through. Just a little bit. It won't be visible from a distance, but if you look closely you can see it. So that's what I like. Make sure the corners are colored in. So this is my first one. Then I'm going to do a layer on top for the second part. And I'm going to do the same thing. Just keep those streaky marks in it. It will be giving it more hand painted look because I like to draw digitally, but I don't like the digital look. And these are very great brushes to keep your colors very analog looking. So this is what I like to do most. So for a layer on top, I'm going to do some branches, some stems of the plants. So I'm going to touch middle green for this one. I'm going to the tapered 2. So that will be a tapered one with an opaque color. And my stems are coming from behind the pot. So I'm going to do this layer below the pot, so it will come out of it and not be floating like my sketch. So there I'm going to draw some branches on a smaller size. I think this is too big. Just don't think too hard on them. Just play a little bit. Make sure they touch. And just fill in the white space here. I don't like that one. We are so lucky we have an undo button. Maybe something from out here as well. Yeah, so you get an overall kind of shape. You filled in the whole area here. So now we're going to create another layer on top. I have to close this a little bit more. I have to create a layer on top for the leaves. So, and now we're going to play. So if you have a hard time with this, you can play on a new layer. Yes, and you can practice a little bit. So I'm on the gouache tapered number 2. So you can practice a little bit with almost no pressure and pull and lift. I'm going to create a little bit bigger. So a slight touch, harder, and slide off again. Lift, push, lift. And you have to do it in a kind of a flow. If I do it too slowly, it won't be as great as all. So lift, push, lift. And just like you light a match or something. So lift, push, lift. Lift, push, lift. Lift, push, lift. And it's up to you. You can practice your sensitivity in every angle you like. So this is how I do my leaves. So you can practice a little bit in the corner. So lift, push, lift. Lift, push, lift. Lift, push, lift. Give it a bend, give it a form, a shape. And the other way around, you can turn your page if you want. Lift, push, lift. It's a little bit more to the side. Lift, push, lift. But you can also practice by going a different direction. So push, lift. Lift, push, lift. So you can get all kind of strokes. So now we're going to do that for real. Make sure we are on a layer on top of the stems. And there we go with our middle color. Am I on the middle color? Yes. And I'm not going to do all the branches just with these ones. So I'm going to take a couple of branches and create those brush strokes. Push, lift. Push, lift. Push, lift. In different directions also. So push, lift. Push, lift. Push, lift. Push, lift. And go in front of the other, that's okay. And then we take another color. So I'm going to do the lighter greens. Push, lift. Push, lift. Push, lift. Push, lift. Push, lift. That's not quite nice. Push, lift. I don't like the tip of that one. Push, lift. Now it's got a lovely pointy leaf. And let's create another one with this color, push, lift. I think these are quite gouache colors and I like those. If I don't have the stamps I like on all the right places, I can always go back and create petals without the leaves. So I think here this color is missing, so I'm going to draw push, lift by hand somehow. So this is how we can play with these colors, and maybe I can use some light one over here as well. Well, it can be on top of the other one, but maybe some more like this. I think this would look lovely for now. Now we've got our flat colors here. Let's play some more with highlights and shadows. For that I'm going to create a clipping mask. And the clipping mask is easy. You go to this layer, you want the clipping mask on, type for the plus, tap the layer and choose clipping mask. And now this has a little arrow and it shows you can only draw on what's been seen in this one. So when I draw here and I will take a black color, you only see it in this shape. Although I'm drawing here, you will only see it in the shape below. So clear this one and let's play with some darker color. And for me, making my shadows is mostly turning them to overlay, choose black for my color and start drawing. I'm choosing the soft wash and I'm going to create a shadowed color here and a little bit underneath here for a shadow with a slider touch. So the harder you press, the more blunt your color will be. And of course this is too hard of a shadow, so I can play with the opacity and create a little softer color. So it's just like the color you've used but slightly darker. And yes, I could have chosen that color right away, but when I later on decide I want like for a teal color, let me show you what it does. So I duplicate this first. So let's pretend I want now this one in teal. I can play a little with my hues and you see this automatically colors along with it. So I don't have to change this shadow layer. So that's why I choose overlay in black. So let's get rid of this one. And you see, it will be gone, delete, and now I have to turn this on again. And now it will be clipped on this one. So that's just a little bit of what overlay does. It will be showing through the color underneath, and when you use black you will make it a little bit darker. It also works the same when you have your white on, and mostly I do that for highlights, but sometimes I think my white is too bright, so I choose a different way, which I'll show you a little bit later on. Let's go to the second one. We do the same, so add in a layer, put it on clipping mask, have your black on, and we do exactly the same. Maybe a little bit rounded here. And put them on overlay. Didn't put it on overlay. And turn the opacity a little bit lower. And sometimes I choose a little bit a slider. This is 26%. And this one was 30. So this one is a little bit more see-through than the one below. But that's what I like. And we're also going to do the same on those leaves. So let's create a new layer on top of that. Put on the clipping mask. And let's play first with some other things. Let's see, put them on overlay first. Still have my black. I'm going to a different brush set, which is the grids, also from the pigeon letters. And I choose the spray noise. And there I'm going to create in a lovely texture at the bottom of those leaves. Just play a little bit with it, because I like textures. And also because it's in a clipping mask, it only will show up on the layer below, so only on the leaves. This is such an awesome brush. I like it like this because it gives an instant paper look. Just checking, do I have every leaf? I think so, yes. And maybe if you have too much, so for instance I think this is too much, with the same brush just erase a little bit, so it will be faded a little more. So now let's get on to the next layer. We're going to create a new layer on top of that, also put it on a clipping mask, and still it shows only at the layer which is below. And now I'm going to play with the, where is it? Yes, this one again. I'm choosing the tapered one, and I'm going to create some shadow. So my lighting is coming from this corner. You can see that because I have my shadows at this side, so I have to play again with the shadows as well. Put it also on overlay, and we can change the opacity later on. But now you can still see I only have to pick one color, and it darkens every color in its own hue. So that's what I like most about that part. So still remembering my light is coming from this way, this upper corner. Sometimes I find it difficult myself to play with the highlights and the shadows, but well, I don't think for these kind of drawings it's very precise, but you can't make a shadow on top of this unless there's another leaf on top of it. Do I have shadow on every leaf? Yes, I think so. Now we can play with some highlights. So for my highlights, I'm going to do the same thing. Create a new layer on top. Put this to screen. Choosing an orange. And also putting it on a clipping mask. I almost forgot that. There we're going to draw in the highlighted area. And of course this is too much, but you can see the color changes and you can play with the opacity a little bit. So like for 70%. Yes, when you look at it from a distance you can see the highlights and shadows now, and that will be fun. And we can always, because we're doing it on a different layer, we can always play with some highlights again. And the layers and the colors. So you can always make adjustments to that. And these are stylized flowers, so you can create them however you want. That's the fun part about art. You like it, and if you like it, it's the most important thing to me. Oh, this one doesn't have, oh yes, it does. So I think everyone has a shadow and a highlight right now, We can play with another fun brush. So we can create a new layer on top. Put them on overlay as well. Because on top I'm going to do a black one with another fun brush from the brush lettering pack. Peggy from the Pigeon Letter also has a Spyro brush, and that's also fun to play with. And it's also on a clipping mask, of course, because we only want to see it on the leaves, so we can make some lovely texture in the leaves. And you see how it instantly changes the look of the leaves. And I like that. Yes, checking if I've got every leaf covered. Yes, I do. And now I'm going to play with some highlight on the plant pot as well. So I'm going back to these layers, creating a new layer. Also do that to screen, my orangey look. And I go to the, which was it again? Grit brush, yes, the spray noise. A little bit bigger. Adding in some speckles here. And again, if I think I've done him too much, I can always erase with the same brush a little bit, so it's a little bit highlighted, not too hard. Again, screen and clipping mask, and grab the brush. This can be having a little bit more, also like here, erasing to soften it a little bit, maybe smaller. Yes, I think I like how it looks right now. And we can choose a fun thing I always choose behind it, what I think it will give it a more illustrated look, is getting rid, of course, of my sketch. I don't need it anymore. And all the way at the bottom I create a new layer, so bring it down all the way. And on this layer below I will be creating a lovely background color. For this one, if you don't know how to choose what is your favorite background color, it will pop out immediately. Just take the color you see here and then turn to the color wheel, choose Harmony, and there you can find Complementary Colors. So looking for Complementary Colors, you will find a color that it's the exact opposite color of the color wheel. And for that one, so we're going to choose that one, and let me see what it does. It could be affected by this layer, but we can play along with that. So first of all, go to the gouache brush again and choose a wider one, large size. Oh, keep it here. And then I will block a square behind it and color it in completely. And now I can see I did not put this on overlay. Sorry, I did not put this on a clipping mask, so I can see it right away. Here we go, I can show you. When I go to my layers, here's the one, and you see it's not on a clipping mask, and there you can see what it instantly does. So hit this, type clipping mask, and you can see it's instantly getting rid of everything you don't need there. I think my square isn't big enough, so I go back to this one. And yes, I want it to be popping out of the leaves. Always erase with the same brush so you can keep the same texture. And now I think it's looking lovely with the leaves, but I think the stems aren't showing too well. So I can play with that. So I go to my stamps, always duplicate so you can save it. And maybe I can change the hue and the saturation and the brightness. So make them a little bit darker. Yes. Then it will be more visible, and maybe we can play with some highlights on those as well. But we have to be very careful because these are very small. So I'm going to create a new layer, and you can guess a clipping mask as well. Choosing my my screen in orangey as well. Take a small brush. Shall we choose the one tapered? It's small. And just play with those a little bit. Yes, you see they will pop a little bit more. So that's great. And of course, if you think they're too hard, you can play with the opacity as well. But I think it sure does something for the stamps. Maybe I can play with the opacity, but I can also play with something else. Let me first check the opacity. What does it do? Make it more in see-through. Like so. Yes, I like it like this. What I also could have done is duplicate this layer so I can show it to you. What I also could have done, so when I bump this up, I could have played with Gaussian Blur a little bit. Then it will smooth in every direction. It's also very soft. So I could choose either way, but I think I like this one more. I don't know why. Maybe because it has a sudden stop to it. Because, you know, for me that is what gouache is all about a more flat colors and no real soft overlays. So I think this one is fun. And yes, I will also do a shadow. So I'm going to create a new layer, bring it all the way down. And there I will choose black for my color. And I choose the gouache number 2. And I'm going to create a circle. And of course this isn't fitting correctly, so I'm going to change this a little bit. Make it even smaller. Bring it down a bit. Make sure your shadow isn't coming in front of your plant pot, because the sun is coming from up here. And you know, of course this is too hard. I can play with the opacity a little bit to make it a little bit gray. I still think when I look at this, I think my lines are a little bit too hard. So I can play with those. Go to that layer they are on. This is the overlay layer. And I can make them a little bit more soft. So they're not too much in there. And maybe I can add some more of those grid. So go to that layer again. Choose the grid brush. Spray noise. And play a little bit with that as well. A little bit more on the leaves. A little bit more moving upward. I can't help myself. I do like texture a lot, so that's why I'm doing that. Yes, I now think this is more to my liking. Yes, these orange colors here came because I put the darker color and then the light color on top of it. I could erase it, but I like it, so I'm keeping them here. So, and maybe also I can make these shadows a little bit harder. So I go back to the gouache brush and on that layer, yes, create a little more dark shadow. Maybe bump it up a little bit more. Too hard like this, I think will be okay. So I'm going to choose for erase and lower the opacity a bit so it doesn't erase everything at once. Yeah, I think it has some more contrast in it right now. Then I'm going to this layer again, bring it up a dash. Yes. I like it with more contrast. So I hope you like this drawing and I hope you have fun creating it. Thank you for watching.